Now, the September 11 general election saw a sharp drop in the number of voters who support greater political pluralism and change in the electoral system. Well, that's according to the latest post-election survey unveiled by the Institute of Policy Studies today. Now, a separate survey on governance also attempted to uncover the X factor, which led to a resounding victory by the ruling People's Action Party.
The September 11 general election saw the People's Action Party securing almost 70% of the popular vote. GE2015 came in the year when the nation marked its golden jubilee. The PAP framed these elections as one where voters would decide what the next 50 years will bring for Singapore in an increasingly uncertain global environment. It was a message that seemed to resonate with voters.
What we have now, in my view, is that there's a survivor ideology version 2. In the 60s and early 70s, we had survivor ideology version 1, and now it's version 2. That means people are concerned about survival and security once again. And I think that is, in my view, the X factor that can account for why voters swing back to the PAP.
Shifts in certain aspects of voter sentiment were also seen in the recent elections. A survey of more than 2,000 Singaporeans showed that support for greater political pluralism and change in the electoral system dipped from almost 36% in GE 2011 to just 18% for GE 2015. Correspondingly, the proportion of conservative voters, or those who support the political status quo, doubled from 21.5% in GE 2011 to 44% this year.
Especially the younger voters, they may have responded to the policies that the government had implemented to help people feel that Singapore is still a land of opportunities. The opportunities for education, for jobs are there. Think of Aspire and Skills Future. Then on the other hand, there was the other segment, the very old voters who probably responded to the fact that the PAP government after 2011 had introduced a lot of policies to deal with monetization of housing assets, CPF reform, and also the introduction of MediShield Life that really deals with the cost of living issues that they are concerned about.
Now, despite a dip in the number of people who want greater diversity in Parliament, Dr. Koh says it's not a hopeless situation for the opposition. That's because the desire for checks and balances is felt across the board, even among the Conservatives. In fact, from 2006 to 2015, the Conservative group increasingly agreed with the statement on the need for checks and balances in Parliament. The mean score rose from 3.05 in 2006 to 3.62 this year.
So the more affluent the society, the more likely people are going to view the need for political competition as something that is good to have, necessary for good governance.
There were some issues that were unique to this year's elections, such as the legacy of the late founding Prime Minister Lee Kuan Yew, who died in March. But researchers did not believe this had a significant impact on the outcome of the elections. The survey showed that Mr. Lee's legacy was more important to older voters aged 55 and above, and those in the working class or among the low-income group. Another issue unique to this election was the controversy over the Opposition Workers' Party's handling of its town council funds. But the researchers also said it had little impact, with the issue being least important to those in the upper middle income group. The Workers' Party's credibility mean score also remained unchanged from 2006 to 2015 at 3.6. The PAP's credibility score went up a notch from 3.9 in GE 2011 to 4.2 in GE 2015. The PAP was viewed as credible, especially by the older generation, those 55 years and above with lower education and naturalized citizens.
And with the growing pervasiveness of social media and digital platforms like Facebook, Twitter and Instagram, some observers have called GE 2015 an internet election. But local researchers say that this was not the case. A survey of over 2,000 voters by the Institute of Policy Studies showed that traditional media consumption still played a critical role in this year's polls.
Online campaigning first made its appearance in GE 2011, and such platforms continued to play a bigger role in the recent elections. The People's Action Party, for example, spent nearly $40,000 on things like a new mobile app, as well as Facebook ads and Twitter engagement. Smaller parties like the Singapore Democratic Party hired a Facebook marketing company for $6,000. But researchers say that while social media allowed voters easier access to information, that was the extent of the engagement. Active participation was low. Survey respondents said they shared information, commented on posts and followed discussion threads only once a week or less. And they almost never made a post, a video or started a discussion thread. When it came to media consumption, the top 3 media are TV, newspapers and websites of mass media outlets in Singapore. As for the top 3 most trusted media, the survey showed that these were TV, newspapers and radio stations, as well as all the websites of mainstream media.
Leading up to the election, like I mentioned earlier, there were a lot of expectations. We saw the online chatter that went online, then you saw the viral videos that were shared, retweeted, etc. So people were wondering, how the social media can actually affect the election, right? So, but what we found was that clearly there is, it was not a social media election, although there was some impact.
Researchers add that internet chatter also had little impact during the campaigning period. Nearly half of the respondents said they had already made up their minds about whom to vote for before nomination day.
They also sometimes talk to the same people online, right? So there could also be the echo chamber effect at work. So if you talk to the same people, or rather people who already agree with you online, then there's probably not much changing of mind that goes on.
Now, researchers were unable to say if the internet or social media had any impact in the way a person voted. But they did say that if political parties can afford to invest more in online engagement, it may help them enhance their outreach in the next general election.